Professor Peter Schwarz is sending his presentation. He has some circumstances he couldn't join us, so he's sending his presentation. Please, Professor Peter Schwarz.
Next president of the International Diabetes Federation. And having this in mind, it's really a great honor to talk to you, because if we talk about, or if we think about where the challenges of diabetes are, where the challenges of diabetes come from, and where the challenges for how to address the determinants of diabetes are going to, then it's the region which are you representing. I would like to thank your association to be member organization of IDF. I would like to thank all the organizers, Ines Schaltut and Mohamed Hassanain, for putting all the energy and input in organizing this conference. But not only this, also all the activities besides the conferences, the discussion we have, thinking about strategy of IDF, thinking about global strategies to address the need of people with diabetes. This is very important for me, and I'm very positive. I'm very confident that we, with this energy in the MENA region, we finally will build a very good strategy against diabetes, a strategy for prevention of diabetes, a strategy for people with diabetes worldwide. And this is what I would like to address in the next 15 minutes. What are the global challenges we have to address? And if you look into my conflicts of interest, there are many, many partners written down here. And you will find not only pharma companies, you will mostly find large NGOs, large insurance companies, large funding agencies. This is also, we have to state as our conflict of interest, but this is also the source of energy, the source of activities we may have. About myself, Peter Schwarz, and this is what is unique about me, is the conjunction of prevention and care of diabetes and the opportunity in working with IDF as the next president to combat or to build a strategy for people with diabetes worldwide. But this means, as physicians, we are also scientists, we have to understand where the pandemic is coming from. And if we look into the regions worldwide where the people with diabetes are coming from, then we see it's not Europe. It's in some cases or some regions of Asia, and it's, yeah, we could say it's the South Sea, it's Latin America, and these are the Gulf states. So if we really want to have an impact on people with diabetes, we have to have an impact in this region. And this is what IDF should achieve, having an impact in the regions where the diabetes is coming from. But this means also we have to understand what are the health determinants for diabetes. And there are people who argue, okay, only the growth of population initiates the growth of number of people with diabetes. And this is not true. On this slide, you see the prevalence of diabetes, or the number of people with diabetes from 1980, and the blue triangle is the increase of number of people with diabetes due to the increase of population. The yellow and the rosé triangle is the increase of population due to change of our habits, change of lifestyle. And this is 50% of the increase. So we have to have in mind that the main driver of increase in prevalence is related to our lifestyle, and vice versa. The main driver for prevention of diabetes is also our lifestyle. And this is what we have to develop strategies to tackle the increase in prevalence, especially in countries like India or China or in the Gulf region, with countries with a very, very high prevalence of diabetes. But there is also new information. If we look into the map of increase in prevalence of diabetes and the map of air pollution, we see the same. What does it mean for us? And I will not say that air pollution or climate change is now also making diabetes, but there is a tight conjunction with an increase in air pollution and an increase in diabetes prevalence in the same regions. And currently we are experiencing the 100 years anniversary of the discovery of glucagon. And if we look in the research in air pollution, we see that medium-sized particles are also stored in the beta cells and the alpha cells and destroy their function. So maybe there is a connect to air pollution, and research in the next years will show us. Looking into the health determinants for premature deaths, so the people who die early, then most of them, and those with the highest prevalence, are related to metabolism. So diabetes-related risk factors or comorbidities are responsible for premature death, but also air pollution and climate is a relevant risk factor. So if IDF develops strategies, we have to address this. We have to have this in mind, because only strategies will be successful who address the roots of determinants for diabetes development. And for me, this means prevention, prevention, prevention. This is what my heart is beating for, where I want to stay for and standing for, where I want to work, that we can realize this in practice. And prevention can be so easy as walking 10,000 steps a day. If we would walk 10,000 steps a day, we basically would not contract any chronic disease. And if we have diabetes, and it doesn't matter how much we are walking per day, if we only increase by 1,000 steps, it's walking 600 meters. It lowers the postprandial blood sugar by 1.5 millimole. It's twice as much as 1,000 milligram metformin are doing. So physical activity, this is the golden goal for prevention of diabetes, but also for managing diabetes. 2,700 steps is what the average European is walking per day. So we are very lazy. We are made to walk 36 to 39,000 steps per day. We are not using this potential anymore. And if I ask the other way around, how many hours per day we are inactive, this is the result. We need only the 20 minutes to walk 2,700 steps. So improving physical activity can be a core strategy for prevention and care of diabetes. If we are honest, true diabetology is not in our brain as diabetologists or on our prescription as diabetologists. It's in the muscle of our patients. It's also in our muscle if we would use them effectively. So let's think about being a good example for our patient, being physical active and showing how physical activity can help to prevent diabetes. But we also have to understand the pathophysiology. And here it's shown 90 years of a diabetes patient being normoglycemic and not insulin resistant in the beginning, and then developing insulin resistance due to the secretion of free fatty acids, followed by pro-insulin increase and pro-insulin resistance, and finally hyperglycemia. This is very glucocentric. If you look into the driver, it's visceral obesity. If you look into the new, I apologize for saying the new devil in the arena, it's the hepatic fat. And if you look into the 100 years of glucagon and put the glucagon on the slide, we see a different pattern of pathophysiology. And for example, the visceral fat is the main driver of increasing diabetes. The hepatic fat is the main driver of progression of diabetes, especially if you compare, for example, Indian population to Caucasian population. It's very different speed of progression of diabetes. If you look into glucagon and glucagon resistance, together with the hepatic fat, this is probably the main health determinant for developing type 2 diabetes and progressing to a form of type 2 diabetes with large number of comorbidities. Better understanding this and better addressing this will be success in prevention and care of diabetes. Here diabetes starts, here we diagnose the disease. So in the medical sector, we come too late. We have to think about new approaches for prevention, addressing this red paradigm early on in the development of the disease. And this may lead to remission of diabetes, especially the interplay between glucagon resistance and hepatic fat is important in the terms of remission of diabetes. I apologize for the German slide here. If we have a lot of fat in the liver, we also have it in the pancreas, and this destroys beta cell function. If you remove fat out of the liver and the pancreas, this may restore beta cell function. And I'm talking about fat particles which develop or initiate the parakrinopathy in diabetes, so destroying beta cells and alpha cells, and by this developing the parakrinopathy in relation to GLP-1 and GIP, the receptors that we have, the good drugs currently for the treatment of diabetes. And this interplay can be turned around to help us to remove liver fat and pancreatic fat, restoring beta cell function, and may lead to a remission of diabetes. And what is the most effective way to initiate this? It's fasting. If you fast for 2 weeks without eating any kilocalorie, so water diet could be the strategy, but also different styles of intermittent fasting, different styles of fasting habits may help to reach this over short or a longer period. But removing fat from the pancreas and the liver by using fasting as a strategy may lead to a remission of diabetes. And for me, next to physical activity, this is one of the most powerful and most effective strategies for prevention and care of diabetes. But we also have to understand our patient needs. And if we look into patient needs, they may differ from people in Latin America, in Asia, in Europe, or in Africa. But looking into their eyes, this is where my eyes and my ear is on listening to the needs, because addressing this need is important as a strategy of the International Diabetes Federation. But what are the needs? They are very different. And if you ask the patients worldwide what are their needs, they may answer this green blocks shown here. And they are very different, depending on the healthcare structure, on accessibility and availability in the system. If we now think about how to address this and who is the stakeholder or the partner in addressing this and sorting them, where we need patient advocacy, care management structures, new policies, translational strategies, or research, you find a pattern where we need different partners, different strategies to address different needs. And doing this is the only basis to finally become a global stakeholder in addressing patient needs, a global stakeholder for prevention and care of diabetes. So the question is where to go from now. In my eyes, serving IDF means first is prevention on all levels, on all aspects. It's also digitalization. My goal is that IDF becomes in the pocket of every patient with diabetes worldwide by using smartphones, by using digital technology and apps, becoming digital therapeutics in the diabetes care. And IDF, for me, is a very strong partner to reach this, to enable this, to roll out this, to scale it up on a global scale. And one activity I will start is a global diabetes survey. Imagine we would know about the quality of diabetes care worldwide. It would be cool. But if you're honest, we don't know. What we know is that standards of care varies, the infrastructure varies, policies are very different in different countries in the world, and the perception of us about the quality of care also varies. We always believe that we have a good quality, but we don't know how is it in our neighboring country. And for me, two aspects are very important. This is availability and accessibility of diabetes care. And these aspects, you can imagine about countries who have everything available, but it's too expensive to be an option for all the people. Other countries, people may afford, but they don't have care structures available. In other countries, the people are diagnosed, but the next diabetologist is 300 kilometers away. How to address this variation of differences? And my answer will be a diabetes index. Imagine we scale up to 100 if you fulfill everything what is possible and what is required in guideline. Imagine now we would always, before World Diabetes Day, would report about differences in quality of diabetes care worldwide. And we would do this, that we ask people once every year in September, worldwide, patients and physicians about their perception about the quality of diabetes care, and put this together into this index or score and confront all the political stakeholders with this in each country. to act to improve the quality of diabetes care. This could become an advocacy project to initiate changes. And now imagine if we would do this every year so that we can monitor in what country the quality of diabetes care is improving or maybe not improving, and confront the stakeholders again with this, so that the Minister of Health in one country is confronted with a decrease in quality of diabetes care, and the people of the diabetes organizations tell them that the neighboring country is experiencing an increase. So this could be the last drop to motivate the Minister of Health to do something to change the situation for people with diabetes. So global advocacy on a political level can be a driver for increasing quality of diabetes care. As I already mentioned, digitalization could be another one. Currently, we experience an AI revolution in change of our social life, I could say. And in the future, we will have digital technology, apps, which use the curve of glucose level. And of course, this is in the moment related to the sensor, but it does not always require a sensor, or requires a sensor only for a certain period of days or few weeks. Analyzing this data and giving concrete recommendations back to the patient in 6 layers of diabetes care. So giving concrete recommendation about change of drugs, change of insulin, time when to take a drug. And this could become the diabetologist out of the pocket of the patient. And then I understand if many colleagues say, oh no, we don't want this because this will have such an impact on our work. But imagine into regions where there is no colleague, where there is no diabetologist, where there is a fast increase in prevalence of diabetes. I think digital tools, digital therapeutics, digital disease management can become a strategy to address many people with diabetes worldwide and to improve their quality. And I think this is something IDF should be the main frontier in rolling this out. In the future, we may even diagnose diabetes using digital biomarkers. This is very, very early research, but it's something where we could address regions of fast increase in prevalence. Imagine there are biomarkers from the smartphone, from wearables, but even for people who do not have a smartphone, can this be applicable using AI technology to visualize the information, but also to use them to treat diabetes or to prevent diabetes from developing. I think every one of us is agreed that for diabetes prevention, this could be very cool. We are maybe a bit skeptical about treatment, but if prevention works, what is the step for treatment? And there are drugs involved, and this is something where new AI technology can be very powerful in helping the patient to take the right amount of drug in the right moment on the day. And of course, there are risks related to it. And this is where IDF should step in, developing guidance, developing a responsibility, developing strategies in our hand for people with diabetes. I'm very optimistic that modern diabetology in the future could look like this, or like this. And as a final step, I mentioned already fasting. And I believe, especially with IDF, it's such a large organization with a high heterogeneity, with diabetes organization, with different religious, different ethnic, different social, and different income background, fasting can be something what is applicable for everyone. And IDF initiated groups developing a guidance or a guideline for fasting in diabetes, built on the very important work of Professor Mohammed Hassanain and his colleagues for Ramadan and diabetes, to make fasting digestible also for all the people with our religious interest in fasting. And what we all know is eating less is healthy. And let me be very straightforward, eating nothing can be even more healthy if it for a certain period of time. And my example always is for 2 weeks not to eat anything, because it initiates a ketosis, and the ketosis mobilizes the fat mainly out of the liver under the or with the help of glucagon, and initiates beta oxidation of fatty acids in the liver, by this emptying the liver from fat. And this is a main driver, the fastest gain of health for those people, and initiates also a reset of the microbiome. And these are the main objective for me why fasting is so good. But there are many different, very good strategies of fasting. And it is something, in my eyes, everyone can do. And we have to rethink our strategies as diabetologists and physicians, how we can embed fasting into our strategies of diabetes care. So looking again into the pathophysiology, this, in my eyes, is what fasting can achieve. And I think this physiological slide shows you that this can be very effective. Finishing up again with IDF, addressing the need is what I want to achieve. And this need will vary in many regions in the world, in many patient organizations, and in many patients. And I want to be the president of IDF in a period where we take all these needs together and address it for people with diabetes. Why IDF? Because I believe IDF is a very powerful structure, or can become a very powerful structure on the diabetes agenda. And my vision, I would say, is that every person with diabetes has a right to get appropriate diagnostic, educational treatment, and preventive measure. And the mission is that we should act every day, that every person worldwide has the same access to the same quality of prevention and diabetes care. And there is still a way to go, and a long way to go. If I imagine that the father of a son with diabetes has to decide per day to buy the insulin for the son or the food for the whole family, this is always an example where I say we have not fulfilled our task yet, and we have to act to fulfill this. So acting for IDF for me means we should put a smile on these faces of people with diabetes. And how I want to reach this with some focus strategy, global advocacy strategy. This is a global diabetes survey I already introduced. Doing it annually before World Diabetes Day, releasing the data before World Diabetes Day to be used to push stakeholders to act on behalf of people with diabetes. Secondly, digitalization. I want that IDF becomes into the pocket of every patient, especially those who are not having a good accessibility and availability of diabetes care. A global research strategy can be very important. It means mainly that member organizations who have a lot of data, who know about the situation in their country, are encouraged to use this data and to do research with this information to help all of us to better understand health determinants and needs of people with diabetes in their region. Fourthly, the IDF school is a very powerful tool in the hand of IDF. And my dream would be that every person working on diabetes care somehow went through the IDF school of diabetes. We are acting to make the IDF school to the most powerful diabetes resource in the world. And finally, an IDF fellowship program. I want that every one of you is becoming IDF fellow. That the fellowship program trains people who do diabetes care, and it means the whole diabetes team. Help them to stay together in a community, to enable continuous medical education, but also to learn from each other, to put strategies into place to improve quality of diabetes care. Using all our knowledge, our intuition, our vision, and our passion can be the seed in a fertile soil where a big tree is growing, and this big tree should have the name, the International Diabetes Federation, where we all work together to finally help our patients to walk away from diabetes. Shukriya, shukriyan. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a great honor to speak here today, and I deeply apologize to be not in person here because of a very personal reason of myself. Thank you very much.
Professor Peter, thank you very much for your attendance and for your lecture. And is there any question? What's your rapid message to ASD in Egypt and Middle East? What to do in the coming years?
Yeah, Ines, I'm not very sure that you can hear me. I hope you can hear me. There was an interference in the sound. First of all, thank you very much for having the opportunity to talk here today to you. And I was listening my own video, and I deeply want to apologize that I'm not here in person, but you know, there was a very personal reason which is still ongoing, so that I decided to take the virtual. If you ask me what will be the most important point talking about diabetes, talking about the region, I would highlight 2 points. One point is we have to be prepared to deal with this catastrophic situation like we are currently experiencing. We experience currently a situation that many people of diabetes suffer, don't have access to diabetes care, and are in a very critical situation. And I think everyone knows what region I'm talking about, but there are many other regions as well. And the IDF become the hub to take care of people with diabetes, not only on a guideline level, not only on recommendation level, we act to provide good care and support for people in such situation. And the second thing what I would like to highlight is actually the way to achieve this. IDF underwent a very critical situation in the last year, and renovate IDF, rebuilding IDF, but reshaping the vision and the strategy of IDF is what it is the given call to everyone sitting in the room. Let's envision and work together. There are regions from religious aspect, scientific aspect, but let's overcome this and work, and in some cases fight one common vision and mission. And this is what I would like to initiate, that IDF becomes our big tree, giving a shadow to all diabetes, independent from where they are coming from, but is also giving a stronghold for those people experiencing catastrophic situation.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your points that you've mentioned, as well as your presentation. We look forward to see you face to face in the next conference, which will be the 20th anniversary of the AASD. So looking forward to see you next year.
Thank you very much. Shukran.